These fools, they'll never learn.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Food for Thought Fight Bites. If you're new to the channel, this is basically where I sit down with a member of the Asian cinema community, martial arts cinema community, kung fu cinema community, whatever you want to call it. We sit down and we just discuss a fight scene. We talk about the ins and outs of it, why we like it, what we don't like about it, those type of things. And I'm very, very lucky to have on an amazing guest today, a buddy of mine and a shining example of a great channel in the martial arts cinema community. And that is Tristan, aka Martial Arts Film Freak. Welcome.
Yeah, boy. Happy to be here.
Great. How you doing?
I am happy, excited to talk about a fight scene that I have spent just way too long pondering on what to discuss here.
Really interesting. I'm actually fascinated by why you chose this one. Not because I think it's particularly bad. In fact, quite the opposite. I think it's wonderful. So go ahead. Which fight scene did you choose for us to talk about?
So despite me being a late bloomer into Shaw Brothers, you'd probably expect me to go with something newer, and I contemplated many times on a few newer things.
I did.
But I had to come back to a movie that has become my favorite Shaw Brothers film. And that is the 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. It is the fight between Gordon Liu and Phillip Ko.
Lovely. In my eyes, definitely the best fight scene in the film. A lot of people will say it's the finale. I disagree. And I
almost
really
went with that.
Sorry,
I almost did the finale.
You almost went with the finale. Yeah, I think the finale has more going on. Certainly, it's a lot more chaotic. But deep down, I'm a shapes guy, and I think this weapons fight is wonderful. So yes, 1984 8 Diagram Pole Fighter, aka the Invincible Pole Fighter, as it was released in the US and I think the UK as well. Directed by Lau Kar-leung, choreographed or martial arts directors were Lau Kar-leung, Xiao Ho, and King Lee as well. I know very, very little about King Lee. I know pretty much zero about him, but most people will know Xiao Ho from being the co-lead in Lau Kar-leung's Mad Monkey Kung Fu. He's a fantastic acrobat. So why do you love this fight scene?
It's just maybe the best pole fight, the best staff fight I think I've ever seen. I'm sure Sammo Hung's got some great stuff out there with a pole, but this movie already had me. I was already very much enjoying this movie. I loved Kara Hui in it. Of course, it has the unfortunate passing of Alexander Fu Shang, so we never know what could have been with his action. Yep. But I was just fully invested in this movie, fully invested in the characters. I thought the story was incredible. And then just this almost climactic moment of Gordon Liu telling Phillip Ko, like, this temple is important to me. My training, my meditation, all that stuff is important. But at the end of the day, I need to go do this for my family, who at the beginning of the movie, like every single one of his brothers, his father is just slaughtered.
Yeah.
And like Phillip Ko is just like, we don't represent that. We're not about that. And they just have this back and forth argument until Phillip Ko is eventually like, fine, you want to leave? Fight me. And it's just, they get you into it before the fight starts with the dialogue, so that by the time they start swinging, like you're in it. You really you just need to know how it ends.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you just covered the fact that the fight scene it's perfect storytelling within a fight. The fight itself, it sets you up with the context, how Gordon Liu is ready to leave Shaolin because he has to go to his family, and then the fight is a pivotal moment. It's a major moment in the film. Firstly, I have to say this: it feels like a final fight. It feels like a finale. So to have it in the middle or towards kind of the final act, but middle-ish of the film is incredible. And I think the fact that it does tell this story of, if you want it that much, you're going to have to go through me. And of course, by the end of the fight, Gordon Liu wants it enough. That's the story it tells. There's
even a little bit of because he's Phillip Ko is like, you're not going to go there and start killing people. That's not what we're about, and I didn't train you for that. And their whole training throughout the movie is based on disarming. You know, they train with wolf dummies and ripping out the wolf's teeth, not in purpose of killing them, but because a wolf without its weapons is not a threat. So they're like, well, it'll drive away the wolves if they lose their teeth. So by the end of this fight, he doesn't disarm him, but he proves like, I can go there without killing anybody. Based on, I mean, I don't know if we want me to jump to the very end of this fight here, but like the way he finishes this fight and Phillip Ko's look of kind of like, holy shit. How did you just do that?
I think so. I watched this fight right before we are making this video. So a few moments ago, I actually watched the fight scene, and I actually realized something for the first time. I've seen this film God knows how many times, countless times, and I've seen this fight scene even more because sometimes you hop on YouTube and you watch your favorite fights. So I've watched this fight countless times, and in watching it again, I really noticed an interesting thing about it, and that is, throughout the entire fight, it's 4 minutes long. For the entire fight, no one gets hit. No one gets hit. Well, not even at the end of the fight. So even to punctuate the ending of the fight where you think, okay, Gordon Liu's going to win it by tapping Phillip Ko or sweeping him or doing something. No one gets hit by a staff this entire scene. It is just staff on staff. It's flinging things. He takes his shoes off with a staff, but no one actually gets hit. And I think that's an incredible testament to what the film is going for, because it is about disarming. It is about not killing people. And in a way, it's kind of ironic, really, because the film is kind of anti-violence because, you know, it's founded in Shaolin, and Shaolin have this message to promote. Of course, at the end of the film, it gets incredibly violent. There are people getting their teeth ripped out by poles. But I think this fight scene is very, very important in that it is the punctuation mark on the point where the film is no longer not violent. It's the final fight where no one gets hit, no one gets hurt, and then from then on, and I think there's another part in this fight scene that implies this as well, from then on, it's going to get dirty, it's going to get violent, because I think at the end of the fight, there's this brilliant, stylish moment where he swings his pole around and the candles go out. And I think essentially, and maybe I'm looking into things a little too deeply, I think that's the kind of quote unquote lights of Shaolin going out for Gordon Liu. He is putting behind his Shaolin mind state, and he is moving on to, you know, the classic Kung Fu revenge mind state.
And at the same time, like you said, the big way he really defeats Phillip Ko is, like you said, he never hits him, but towards the end of the fight, he just one at a time gets him out of his shoes.
Yes.
And so during this whole fight towards the end, he also manages to draw a yin yang symbol in the ground, and each of his shoes are like the dots in the yin yang. So I mean, if you want to go from your sort of metaphorical angle there, you know, there's sort of there's the yin yang of like, look, I'm gonna have to go fuck some people up.
Exactly.
But I will be peaceful about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Yes, it's the violence versus non-violence, but it's all within the context of Shaolin, which is really interesting. Yeah, it's a fascinating fight. And if we just get down to brass tacks and just talk about the fight choreography for a moment, I don't know how Lau Kar-leung did this fight. The fight choreography is, you say it's the best staff fight you've ever seen, right? I agree wholeheartedly. I think there's two world-class greatest staff fights of all time, both including Lau Kar-leung. I think he choreographed and directed this one, and then he was in Pedicab Driver with Sammo Hung.
Yeah,
and I think that staff fight is phenomenal as well. I think this one beats the one in Pedicab Driver. There's something about this fight scene that is simply flawless. Just break it down by every move. Just watch how the movements in this fight scene, just incredible stuff. It is beyond stylish. It's beyond, it's got that I don't know how to. I always talk about this, and I've never known how to explain it. But like, if you're into shapes, like the shape style of choreography, it's got that pop, 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 pop,
Yeah.
like kind of rhythm that you get into. This has got that. It's got everything, and plus, it's got a really, really big point for me, a plus point for me, which is Phillip Ko very rarely gets the chance to shine. Phillip Ko is one of the greatest kung fu stars of all time,
Right.
and yet he's not in enough things.
No, I've found that throughout my kung fu journey through many years is I'll see these guys who I'm like, oh, that's a recognizable face because they'll pop up for like 5 seconds to lose a fight, or maybe they're like a side character, especially in a lot of Jackie Chan Sama movies.
Yeah.
I think he pops up for a second. I can picture his face in a fight scene in Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars.
Yep.
But and then every now and again you'll catch that one movie where they get to be the lead villain or something, and they get that one massive fight, and then from then on it's like, oh, why don't they get the chance to do this more? You know, I don't know what happened with like Wang Lung Wei, I think a few times. Of course, Ken Lo, I feel like Ken Lo is comedy fodder in a handful of movies, but you know, of course, he has Drunken Master 2.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a weird one for me is BKO Bangkok Knockout. That entire cast is just made up of stunt guys. But now then when I watch like Chocolate or Raging Phoenix, I'm like, oh, there's that guy. There's that. I like these guys. They're dead now.
Yeah, it's interesting how there are people like that. I think throughout martial arts cinema, where you get to see him in amazing fight scenes, but you never truly get to see him in like really fantastic full-blown roles. Phillip Ko is definitely one of them. Funny enough, we're on the podcast in a few weeks. We're covering or reviewing Shaolin. Wait, I've got to get the right one now. Shaolin Intruders. And Phillip Ko is the main bad guy, quote unquote bad guy. He's kind of, I guess he is. That's a spoiler. If I apologize to anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a spoiler. But he's the main bad guy in it, and he has this ferocious, amazing final fight in that as well. And then, of course, there is the two films. They're pretty hard to get. I think not everyone has seen them, but The Loot and The Challenger. Both starring Norman Chu and David Chang. Phillip Ko is the bad guy in that, and he has this absolute shapes fest against both of them at the end. Lily Lee's there as well, and he's just Phillip Ko's incredible. He's amazing, and he popped up in a whole bunch of Bruceploitation flicks and kills it in every single one of them. And I don't know why someone just didn't go, Phillip, you're incredible. I'm going to put you in the lead as a hero. But I guess he kind of has an evil face, a bit like Wang Lung Wei.
Those guys do, yeah. Harkon Fung, very evil face.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Li Hoi Sang, even Huang Zhang Li, they have all these like, mean faces. It's really, really interesting that's the case. Fascinating that some people just didn't get that chance to really shine. There's what's his name? Oh my god, the main bad guy in have you seen 5 Super Fighters?
I believe so. That's the one where like the dude just comes and like fucks everyone up, and then they spend like a year training to fight him again, right?
Yeah, he calls himself the corrector of kung fu. He wears the straw hat.
Yes. I have seen this
Guy's name.
I have no idea what his name is.
Quan Fung. Quan Fung's his name. He never got a leading role. He's incredible. Not a leading role that I've seen, and he's incredible. And there's just so many talents out there that just never got the chance to shine. But the great thing is films like this, you know, they showcase Phillip Ko, and you get a moment like this where you're like, okay, he's the real deal. He's the shit. And also, Gordon Liu in this fight, I'm not sure I've seen Gordon Liu move like this before.
No, this is incredibly fast paced, incredibly great combination of technical, like choreography to the shapes, to the flurries and flashy wire work with like also moving around like the podiums and stuff, whatever they're moving around, all that stuff. No, I'm trying to think like Gordon Liu, even in like Heroes of the East. I don't know if Gordon Liu even moves like this.
Yeah, I granted, you know, I think most of his legendary films, his iconic films, are definitely, you know, they're late 70s, so maybe they're gonna be a bit slower. This is 84, so you know, it was almost coming out of that era of shapes. So it's maybe just a little bit, I don't know what we want to call it, advanced, I suppose, compared to 78, 77, 79. I also want to know how much this fight scene is undercranked. Now I don't care about undercranking. People watching this, I love undercranking. I think it's a necessary tool. I love it. I love the fact that it's used. I love the fact that in Kung Fu cinema, everyone's undercranked. I'm not against it. But I'm always interested in how quick the people are in real life compared to how quick they are when sped up. You know, Jet Li famously had to slow down for the cameras because the cameras weren't capturing him. So I just love.
But then you watch a handful of Jet Li movies where it's like, this is undercranked to hell.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tai Chi Master, or
Yeah,
Twin
which I
Warriors.
love, but
Yeah, fantastic film. But my God, some of that is, well, that's Yuen Wu Ping, I think, just going nuts, right? Like Donnie Yen was super, super, super fast, but he fell in love with undercranking in what, the mid 90s,
yeah,
early
Legend of
90s.
the Wolf.
Legend of the Wolf and his Fist of Fury TV series. It's insane, but I guess it was just a tool that was used at one point. And there's a smattering of films that do it too much. There's a film called Blade. I don't know if it's Blades of Fury or Blade of Fury. Sammo Hung directed it. It's a swordplay film. I can never remember the lead actor's name, but it's got Sammo Hung in it as a cameo. That film is almost unwatchable because, and it's fantastic. The choreography in it is absolutely stellar, but it's almost unwatchable because of the undercranking. It's bonkers. But like I said, go ahead.
With undercranking, it's I don't mind undercranking by itself because I can look at something like Iron Monkey that's undercranked like crazy and I love it.
Oh yeah.
There's a weird, and I know you're gonna know what I'm talking about. There's a weird thing in the 90s, and I think it goes into Hong Kong television or mainland television, you know, Chinese television shows, kung fu shows, where it's undercranking with like low crooked angles and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's when they try, I mean, it's when they start getting a little bit too, I don't know, maybe trying to hide some stuff with it. That's when I'm like, this is hard to watch.
Yeah, and I honestly think that, especially in this genre, actually, I think that the genre goes through waves of trends, right? And I think sometimes they hit and sometimes they miss. And I think the undercranking in the 90s, again, it was a mix. Sometimes, again, I get what you mean with like the angles and the lots of like Dutch angles and lots of very. It was almost like I don't know. It felt a bit experimental in the filmmaking, and I think some of it worked, some of it didn't. Like something like Swordsman 2 is completely bonkers. Crazy angles, crazy undercranking, wire work that is absolutely nuts, but for some odd reason, it totally works. But I
Trio.
think Heroic Trio, exactly. Hopefully, we get that soon. I'm looking forward to it. I believe it's going to hit Blu-ray at some point.
I think it's Criterion, I think.
Criterion allegedly have it, which they do. We all know they do, but they haven't released it yet. I was just talking about that with my last guest, actually. But yeah, I think there's a certain thing these days, actually, that people have kind of caught onto, well, not even caught onto, I guess it's been a thing for ages, but they're utilizing a lot these days in martial arts cinema. In order to hide stunt doubles, they'll have the top shot, right? So they'll put that down, and I think that's a technique in my eyes that I have become very, very sick of. I think the choreography looks great at that angle, but I think it's so overused to hide your stunt doubles. I just think there's other ways of doing it, and I don't always like that. And don't get me wrong, I know it's not easy to have the budget to do like CGI face swaps like they did in Shang-Chi. But you know, I think there are certain things that just are experimental that they just start using a lot more, that it's just like, okay, you either love it or you hate it. I think a lot of it.
No, I don't mind too many of the high angles. I don't even know if I notice them half the time. Because when I think of like the overhead angle, my brain immediately just goes to the raid. That's the first thing I go to.
Yeah, the hallway.
Yeah, as he's like got the two guys up against the like both doors, and he's just
Yeah.
going back and forth with each one.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, to go tie it back to the film we're watching, in this fight scene, there's actually an overhead shot. It's very, very quick. Yeah, very, very quick. Super effective. It doesn't last that long, and it's just great. I think the first time I really started noticing it was into the Badlands. I was actually noticing it a lot in that. But yeah, I mean, it's just something that I've not really loved as it's kind of increased over the years. But yeah, there's overhead shots in Shaw Brothers films. It just, they've always been. It's just every now and again, action cinema will catch on to a certain gimmick and they'll use it a lot. And sometimes, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But back in the 60s, it was the trampoline jumps,
I still not. I was never a big fan of the trampoline jumps, and especially like in Big Boss when Bruce Lee did it. I was like, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I think the trampoline jumps and the classic, the classic playing someone jumping off a building in reverse, so it looks like they're jumping onto a building.
Was a disgusting one of those, and Half a Loaf of Kung Fu.
Yes. I haven't watched that one in a while. I didn't pick that one up on. Oh, yes, I did. I did pick that up on Blu-ray, and I think I was disappointed. Yeah, I believe so. I watched it not that long ago again, and I was not a fan.
Yeah, there's a scene where Jackie Chan is acting like a chicken or something, and he like flutters his hands, and they do the backwards jumping up on top of a building, and it's not a good movie.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate films like a lot of the Shaw Brothers stuff is just so I guess the word is polished. It's just so polished and so nice to look at, and they often don't use gimmicks that are too silly to take you out of the moment. I think it's very interesting that you say 8-Diagram Pole Fighter is your favorite Shaw Brothers movie. I don't think it's interesting because it's different. I think there are a boatload of people that will say the same thing. I think everyone loves 8-Diagram Pole Fighter, and for some odd reason, it just doesn't do it for me, and I can't put my finger on it.
And as you know, I've told you before, I came to Shaw Brothers quite late. And I didn't care for the style very much, and I grew into it. There's a weird thing with Shaw Brothers, and it's in a few other movies. I know, it's in a few Sammo Hung movies, but there's more of a sense for me sometimes of the story of like a theme in so many Shaw Brothers movies, or even just like dipping into other genres a little bit. Like, I love Five Deadly Venoms, probably for reasons more than other people do. Like when I first watched Five Deadly Venoms, I'm going in expecting just like a fight movie.
Yep.
And then I'm like, no, I'm genuinely entertained by this mystery.
Yep, absolutely.
And it pays off with a great final fight and a reveal within that fight. But within that mystery, I was enthralled by it. This movie, the tale of, the family and revenge, this whole time, Gordon Liu, even though he's in this temple training, all these monks have their, standard pole. He came in with a spear. That was his family weapon, was the spear with the gold blade. And he breaks off the blade, and that's his weapon throughout the entire movie. So even though he's taking this creed of Shaolin and peace, no true violence, he still maintains some sort of element of that the whole movie, because no matter what, he's still using a weapon with his family's name on it.
It's great, and isn't that great filmmaking? That's stuff like that. Those story beats that tie everything together. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a signature of so many Shaw Brothers films, or even kung fu movies, but Shaw Brothers films that a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, I'm not trying to be pretentious when I say this, but I think a lot of people allow stuff like that to fall by the wayside, and they just watch this kung fu movie and I watch it for the fights, and I fast forward through the story or something like that. But I think take a film like this, for example, if you fast forward through the story, you're missing so much.
No, my favorite moment in this movie isn't just this fight scene, but my favorite moment comes in the final fight. Like the moment that made me pop like I was watching wrestling is they're in the final fight. And I know we're talking about the Phillip Ko and Gordon Liu, but this isn't just the whole fight. This is just this one moment within this fight that had me going insane more than anything else in this movie. Is in the end, when the monks do come and help Gordon and Karahui, Gordon Liu turns to Phillip Ko, because again, the whole time in the beginning, they're training by training on like driving away wolves. And that's literally what the
Yes.
words at least they use, at least in the dub. I remember watching the first time I saw this.
Yeah.
Driving away wolves. So in the end, whenever they finally come help, and like you said, they're ripping out their teeth just like they were the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon Liu turns to Phillip Ko and he says, "Master, you're breaking your rule." And Phillip Ko says, "No, we're driving away wolves." And I popped. I was like, "Yes, you're driving away wolves."
Yeah, that's right. Great. That's great writing. It's so good. I think people are so often inclined to, I don't know, laugh at kung fu movies and tease people about them. And I think watching this genre, I think it's interesting how you do have to build up somewhat of a tolerance to certain things, and you have to get into this mind frame where some of the cheesier things, and I'm not talking about writing here, that's just good writing, but some of the cheesier things become not so cheesy and they become cool. For example, in this film, Gordon Liu goes to Shaolin, and we're talking about this concept of defanging the wolves. And you've mentioned it. They have literally, for those who haven't seen this film, they literally have wooden wolves, and they are using their poles to knock out the teeth of these wooden wolves, to spin them around, to hit them, to strike their tails, to do this, all this kind of stuff. And some people watching that will go, "What the fuck is this? What is this cheesy nonsense?" But kung fu fans, true kung fu fans, will go, "This is fucking amazing. This is one of the coolest things I've seen." And it really interests me. I'd love to, like, one day, I don't know, I'm never going to go back to school, but if I did and I went back to some kind of like film school or film class or something like that, I would love to do some kind of paper on the varying attitudes towards kung fu cinema.
Right.
There's those that get it, and there are those that don't get it. And that's part of why I do the Food for Thought podcast, because I'm trying to bridge that gap. My wife and my buddy, they don't get it. They don't get it. And I'm showing them all these films in the hope that they will get it. And I'm seeing if you can actually bridge that gap or whether it's just unbridgeable.
You know, it's weird you talk about like the cheesiness of it, because I definitely know people who think of the cheesy, like you talking about the wolves and the dummies. The movie that made it that idea palatable for mainstream audiences is Karate Kid, because I was thinking like, oh, like in Clan of the White Lotus when he's learning kind of to sew because he's gonna be stabbing his freaking bad guy with the needles, or in Dreadnought where he's doing laundry, and it turns out in doing laundry he's actually studying this crazy form of kung fu that even his master is like, "Holy crap, how'd you learn how to do that?" But the movie that really made it like best exemplifies it, probably, I guess, is going to be Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off, painting the fences, and every single bit of that is applied.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy how some people see these things and they are like, "Oh, that's the coolest thing ever." But in other contexts, like someone will watch Karate Kid and go, "Oh yeah, wax on, wax off. I get it. That's kind of cool." And they'll watch like they'll say the same thing in a Shaw Brothers film. And they'll be like, "Well, that's cheesy and dumb." And it's so interesting to see how mindsets change. You take let's talk about social media for a second. On, I don't know, Twitter, Instagram, whatever the hell you're on, you take a fight scene like Magnificent Butcher, the Magnificent Butcher. So if you take that film's calligraphy fight scene, right? Kwan Tak Hing, Lee Hoi Sang, they're fighting calligraphy style. Some people will say this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I have taken that fight scene, I have posted it on social media. There are people that are literally completely blind when it comes to kung fu cinema who watch that and go, "What is this film? I have to see it. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen." And it's so interesting that so many people are missing out on kung fu cinema and these amazing things that they will fall in love with because they've seen so much of the genre and seen so many things that are just like, "Well, Jackie Chan's early humor doesn't do it for me. I accidentally watched, I don't know, spiritual kung fu and the ghosts. I laugh at the ghosts are dumb and I can't watch it and it's cheesy and stupid." But so many people miss out on things because there's everything in kung fu cinema.
It's just it's just coming at it from a mature angle, and I've talked about this in a video a long time ago. I had to watch I watched Jet Li's Hero in a classroom, and the wire work and stuff, making my classmates laugh and stuff.
Oh man,
But
what?
but it's just a maturity that you need to have with it, because I watched Butterfly and Sword way too young.
Yeah, okay.
That is a extreme wuxia movie.
Yeah.
Wire work, crazy effects. At one point, like Donnie Yen or someone like with thrusting his sword flies through somebody else. Like, it's an insane movie.
Yeah.
And I watched it way too young, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening, and I don't like it.
Right.
And I had to, I had to grow up and be like, okay, what is this style? What is this filmmaking? What are these references that in terms of this choreography, the style of filmmaking, the wires, the effects? Oh, I get it now. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think having some kind of respect for cinema, or whatever you want to call it, like respect for movies, really does help. Because Hero is a gorgeous film, but if you're just looking at these people floating, it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of stupid. But if you appreciate it for the art, and again, I'm not trying to be pretentious, I'm literally saying that when you're watching Hero or Crouching Tiger, you have to appreciate the art, because if you don't, your suspension of disbelief goes out the window, and once that's gone in a film like that, you can do nothing but laugh. You're stuck. So I think going back to 8-diagram pole fighter and this particular fight scene in question, I think this is an amazing one for you to choose. For one of the reasons is, I think if anyone wants to introduce someone to Kung Fu cinema and really wants them to see an incredible fight scene, you could do much worse than Phillip Ko and Gordon Liu in 8-diagram pole fighter.
No, absolutely.
I think it's impeccable. I'll go as far as to say it's flawless. I don't think there's any flaws with this fight scene. I think everything, even the symbolism at the end, where Phillip Ko actually at the end, he's the abbot, obviously, and he takes his red sash off and he throws it at Gordon Liu, and it's not, you're the abbot now, it's, you've bested me. This is a token of you besting me. And
it's even like saying, like, I could learn a thing or two from you.
Yeah, and it's also showing that he's not angry. He's not saying fuck you, you beat me, how dare you. It's okay, I get it. You've got the passion, you've got the need or desire to go and help out your family so much that you bested me. I kind of like bow my head to you a little bit. So yeah, storytelling. This is a prime example of a storytelling fight scene. There's so many of them out there that do not tell a story. Nothing wrong with that. If you just want a straight up kung fu fight scene that tells no story whatsoever, there are 100 films like that are on my top 200 films list. I love goofy kung fu films that have no story within their fights whatsoever. But if you want a bit of meat on the bones, Shaw Brothers. Yeah.
Story at the end of the day, even like, despite how incredible I truly believe this action and everything is, I truly love it. The story is, at the end of the day, what made me pick this, because every other choice I had, and I had many, I made a list. Everything I had, despite being incredible action, incredible choreography, perfect filmmaking for a fight scene, none of them had the storytelling aspect that this one did.
Absolutely. And I for one appreciate that. I love talking about fight scenes in general. That's hence why I do this series. Fight scenes are really my shit. It's what I love more than anything in cinema in general. Fight scenes are just my passion. And but to come across a fight scene that really has more to it than just, this has amazing choreography, or I love the violence in this, or whatever it may be, but to have something that has story behind it and meaning to it and passion behind it, yeah, it's amazing to talk about something different like that. Yeah, so if anyone's out there and they haven't watched the 8-diagram pole fighter and you have any interest in watching it, you really should. I mean, it's available now on probably multiple places. 88 Films came out with a Blu-ray back in the day. Is it on Shaw Scope? 8-diagram?
No, it's not on Shaw Scope.
Okay.
I want to say there could be an individual Arrow release that I can't remember.
You're right. You're
because
right.
there's so many different UK releases, and then there's the Arrow releases, and I always end up buying the UK one because I'm not patient.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. I do exactly the same thing. You are absolutely right. There is an Arrow release because I remember it's one of the few ones that I double dipped for early because some people said the Arrow version is better or blah, blah, blah. So I did double dip for those. But yes, you are absolutely right. But as for the buying UK releases first, yeah, I am. It's a terrible habit. Especially when a film comes out in the UK and you literally know it's going to come out in the US soon, but you just cannot get that patience. You just have to buy. I did it recently, actually. I can't even remember. Oh yeah, I don't think this is a hot ticket discussion or anything like that. But for those that don't know, there is a Jet Li set coming out from Eureka. I think so.
Yes.
It is, I'm going to get this wrong. It is Hitman, Bodyguard from Beijing, and Dr. Y in the Scriptures
No,
with
it's
No
the
Words.
Enforcer.
The Enforcer.
The Enforcer.
Yes.
I think it's the Hitman because I think people were complaining.
Yes.
Yeah. People were complaining that it doesn't have Bodyguard from Beijing.
Yes. So it's Hitman, The Enforcer, or My Father's a Hero. And then it's Dr. Y in the Scriptures with No Words. And I'm pretty sure that they are coming right round the corner from someone in the US as well. Whether it's going to really fucking piss me off if someone puts those three on a set and then adds additional films to this. If they add Bodyguard from Beijing or add what's the other one I'm thinking, like High Risk or something like that, they slap that on it, I'm going to be so frustrated. But I will double dip because that's what I do. But yes, it's just a thing when you have no patience and you just jump on the first thing that's available in the market. It's not a good thing to have as a collector, but I know that all of us do it, or so many of us do it.
So far, I've refrained. I've been a good boy.
Really good for you. Good for you.
I mean, sort of. I have old Fortune Star copies of movies. Like I have a Fortune Star copy of Magic Crystal. I don't double dip. I replace because the new stuff is supposed to just be better quality.
Yes.
So I will get the 88 Films or whoever it is that put out Magic Crystal, and I'll replace my Fortune Star one.
I honestly, I'm in the same boat. I picked up the Magic Crystal Blu-ray, the Hong Kong Blu-ray, last year or 2 years ago or something, and I will be replacing it with 88 Films release. But yeah, I think it's we could get into this and talk about it for hours. The actual ins and outs and science of being a collector and all the things that we go through to get the Blu-rays that we want and the amount we pay and when we double dip or triple dip or things like that. We can talk about this. Actually, do you know what? I think that'll be a good video. I should get a number of us on video, like maybe 3 or 4 of us as collectors to talk about how we collect and what like type of collectors we are. That would be pretty interesting.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I think this was nice and short. I'm glad we talked about this one. This was an awesome suggestion. Yeah, big fan of this film. Great stuff. So before we go any further, before we totally wrap it up, go ahead and tell all the people where they can find you.
I am the Martial Arts Film Freak on YouTube. Been doing it for a long time, and I still enjoy it. I'm Martial Arts Film Freak on TikTok as well, Instagram, and a Facebook page, as well as Tristan_Glover on the Twitter. And if you also go into some of my recent videos down in my bio and stuff, I do have some merch. Wearing my hoodie right now.
Nice.
So if you like any of my stuff over there, any of my designs, you can also pick some of those up. Those do help out a lot. Any money made from whether it be Patreon or any of that stuff, all that stuff just goes back into the channel, trying to make it as good as possible.
Awesome. If you don't know me, I am Food for Thought across platforms, pretty much on everything. If you type in Food for Thought, you'll find me. Obviously, YouTube, have a podcast that's available on all good podcast platforms. I have a Facebook page that's fairly new, actually, so come and join the Facebook. Instagram is really the big place where I dwell, but I'm also on Twitter as well and like to chat it up on Twitter. I believe on Twitter I'm Food for Thought Pod, so it's a little bit different on there. I could not get Food for Thought. I do not have any merch, but I do have a Patreon. So if you ever want to go to patreon.com/food for thought, give me a few dollars each month. Sorry, you can get interesting extra episodes of the podcast. We're doing movie commentaries. We're doing a movie commentary soon for Roadhouse. Really looking forward to that. So good things coming. And I don't have any merch, but I am wearing, to celebrate the man's birthday, I am wearing a John Woo t-shirt. A John Woo t-shirt, sorry. I wasn't speaking to the mic.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I said woo as in like a celebration, but I was like, oh, John Woo.
There you go, John Woo. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. God, I can't speak now. I really appreciate it. If you would like to comment, we'd really appreciate it as well. Likes mean the world. I'm new to YouTube. I didn't know likes were so important. I kind of just forgot about them and just hoped people would give me them. But if you do like it, please just give it a little tap. I know every single YouTuber says that. I know it's corny and boring to hear it. Apparently, it really does help.
Interaction's the name of the game.
Exactly. I don't know shit about that, but likes really help. And hey, if you like what I do on this channel, please feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And there we have it. 8-diagram pole fighter. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will catch you next time.